Hello and welcome to Power Hour. Today's topic is going to be the SharePoint FAQ web part. It is the frequently asked questions web part and it is part of Copilot. So here we go. All right, so you all voted for the FAQ web part for today's demo, and it is a Copilot feature. So if you have the Microsoft 365 Copilot license, you'll be able to see this in your tenant, and it is a brand new feature. It even says preview next to it. And what it's going to do is actually create frequently asked questions for you based on a file. So it's just, it's editable. It's just going to create a bunch of categories and questions, and it's pretty simple to get started with it. So, and if you are brand new to Power Hour and you are just watching for the first time, there's going to be a link below wherever you're watching to click to request to join. We have a lively chat going on in Teams where you can just ask questions as we go, and a link to join the newsletter because everybody votes for what the topic is. I send out the newsletter on Tuesdays to vote for Wednesday's topic. So this is what you all voted for. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen here. And I've got Joelle in the window there. Okay, so this is an example of a FAQ web part that I've already set up. And what I did with this one, I'll do a new one to show you all just from scratch, but I want to show you what the result looks like. This is a FAQ web part that I pointed to my training, a training slide deck. So this is a SharePoint power user training. It's a very long slide deck. So it was able to find for me just automatically, find a bunch of categories, create all the questions, create all the answers, and let me kind of edit it and monitor that process along the way. So this is what it generated for me. And you can see that it's just looking at the training, finding a lot of information. It figured out what all these categories are, like site management. It can even, it's got even some spots that I noticed that it creates little tables. So notice that I had some slides comparing what is a site versus what is a page. So it put a little table in here. So it's got a lot of interesting ways that it generates this content with bullet points and tables with some very detailed questions and answers. So in a previous Power Hour, we used company policies as an example when we started talking about agents. So we had this company policy, we call it the Policy Center as our SharePoint sites. And in a previous Power Hour, when we were talking about agents in SharePoint, we pointed an agent at this Policy Center, and then the agent gives us the ability to ask questions about the policies. So it's just an interactive chat bot where you go in and ask questions about the policies, but it's kind of up to you as to what your questions are. So the difference is the FAQ web part is going to allow you to just see frequently asked questions where it decides what it thinks the frequently asked questions will be. So what I did was in that previous demo, we had a whole bunch of company policies that Joelle generated using Copilot, just had Copilot write a bunch of fake company policies. It's really fun for demos. And then they were all in here. So what I did is since this FAQ web part is going to be based on a file, I just kind of took a bunch of the content from a bunch of different of the policies, and I just created a document called All Company Policies just for demonstration purposes so that we could maybe get it to generate just like a whole bunch of questions and, see what it looks like when you point it to a pretty large document with a lot of content in it. So I'm going to go to my home page. This would be a perfect place to have a frequently asked questions. And this is the home page of the Policy Center. So here on the right is just my quick way of finding all my web parts. And I can see this one, there's a new category in here that says AI. And so this is the FAQ and it is in preview right now. So what we do is we say source files. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick all company policies. And so you could add a whole bunch of separate files one at a time, but I wanted to just go ahead and just put everything in one file. But you could just go pick a bunch of individual files and list them here. So either way you want to do it. And then the next thing you do is you have a purpose. So when the AI is going to generate all these questions, it kind of just wants you to give a general category, general kind of concept that it needs to reason over. So it gives you a few different categories to pick from. So is this an event? It is a product. Are we asking questions about a particular product? Are we asking questions about a policy? So I would pick policy here. And then you could just pick general. If your concept that you're creating FAQ about doesn't fall under any of these, then that would be general. So the other one that I did for when I had it generate questions about the SharePoint Power User content, since this one says user guides in here for product, I went ahead and just had picked product for that one. But I'll go ahead and pick policy. Now here's the part where it's up to you to give AI a little bit more information. So this is where you can tell it what you think the audience needs to be, what you think the tone needs to be. Just think about in your prompt writing those extra little helpful concepts that it helps to mention to AI whenever you're doing any kind of prompt interaction with AI. So that's just for it to give it a little bit more data to go on. I'm not going to give it any more information. I'm just going to click start. And so I have my little FAQ web part just kind of over on the right here. So the first thing that it does as it's going is it creates a bunch of categories. So it's creating categories first. Now, as it does this, it has, before you even go into the questions, it gives you the ability to add a new category. So you can actually edit this before you start doing anything. So you can, before you have it draft the questions, you can just have it, you can say, I want to edit this one. You can move them up and down as you go. You can even drag them with this little handle here, and you can add new categories if you want to. So it looks like it's covering kind of all the concepts that I have in that file. And it really helps to have a very organized, whatever your files are, to have them very organized. Because what I did in this file is I have, I'm using headings and like H1s and H2s and H3s to organize those files. So it looks like it's very easy. It just found all the H1s and it made those into categories. So the next thing you do, if you don't want to edit this, you can just tell it to draft the questions. And I'll just click draft questions. And now it's very quickly drafted the questions. And let me take this web part and I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it down to this other, because it's kind of crammed in that little weird awkward spot there. I'll move it down. All right, that makes more sense. Okay, so now you can see it a little better. All right, so now it's got questions. And again, it gives me the opportunity to rearrange these, move them up and down, and delete them if I want to. So it's got all these possible questions that people frequently ask. Now, if you know some very specific frequently asked questions, then you could just add those yourself. So I could say like, what kind of shoes can I wear to work? So if you want to just add new questions, so it's just going to add that to the list, and then I could move it down to the bottom like that. You just drag it. And then once you see all the questions, then all you have to do is click draft answers. So I love that this is just figuring it all out for me. And it's just guessing what all the questions and answers would be. All right, so now look how quickly it's got all my answers. It actually took a little longer when it went through that gigantic PowerPoint that I pointed it to for the other example I showed you. It's got how do I accrue paid time off, and then it's very organized in that it's kind of giving it little bullet points. So it's got this whole thing expanded out and it's showing me the answers. So notice that it's not even halfway done yet, but it's just showing me what all the answers are just as it generates them. So I've got, it's got attendance, expectations for reporting absences and tardiness. and it's just going down the list. So it's just really, if you have a Copilot license and you want to have all these different options for making it easy for employees to find what they need, having an agent is one way, because they could just manually ask it questions just like this, whatever they need to know about the company policies. But you could also just say, all right, well, we just want to put these questions and answers front and center and just have them right there on the home page. So as soon as you go to the policy center, you're going to immediately have all the information you need about just all those common questions. And if you think it's listing too many, then you could just delete some and say, no, narrow it down to the actual frequently asked questions that you think that are relevant. Now, another thing to keep in mind about this is that the file that I'm pointing to here for the FAQ, it doesn't even have to be on this site. So I could just create a bunch of frequently asked questions based on a file that the people visiting this site may not even have access to. So I could say create an FAQ for like that training one that I created, and just have the FAQ on a SharePoint page, and the people looking at the FAQ may not even have access to the file, to the actual training file. So that's possible too. So where you put the web part has nothing to do with where the actual content is that it's based on. Oh, okay, good news. Joelle looked it up. Thank you, Joelle. So viewers do not have to have a Copilot license. So that's a really good thing to know. Okay, so with the agent, everybody interacting with the agent does need to have a Copilot license. But if you do use this Copilot FAQ web part, then you could just generate all the questions, and then the people visiting and looking at the web part and seeing those FAQs, they don't have to have a Copilot license. So they don't have to have access to the content, and they don't have to have a Copilot license. Thanks for researching that, Joelle. So look at this. It's expanded all of these questions. So now what it's doing is it's saying, all right, so here are all the questions and all the answers that we created. So let me kind of shrink these down a little bit. Dress code. And then here's the here's the dress. The dress code that Joelle created, the little fake dress code, was for lifeguards. So it's got, red swimsuit and all these silly things. So it doesn't have, lifeguards don't even have to wear shoes. So it doesn't matter what shoes you wear. All right, so there is the content that is generated. So as you're looking through all this content, you could go back a step. So if I want to go back to the previous step where I'm looking at all the questions, and I'm looking, and even the previous step before that where I'm looking at the categories, I could click to go back. So once you get to the point where it's created all of the questions and all of the answers, your options are to just completely delete the whole thing, to go back to the previous step, or you just keep it. So I'll go ahead and keep it. But then once you keep it, there's a whole bunch of editing that you can do. So I can even change the purpose. So this is an editable property of the web part. I can change the purpose, and I can also add more details in here. And so I can add more details for the AI, and then it's going to adjust itself. So let me see, the audience is new employees who are in their 20s, I don't know, but their ages to 30s in a fast-growing technology company. So I get very specific about the audience. Say that you have an entire company you're looking at new employees, and they're all very young because it's a young upstart tech company. So it's actually regenerating it's going through this whole process again, where it's regenerating all the categories and all the questions to adjust it to whatever changes. So whenever you change those settings, in the web part, it's going to completely redo and rethink everything. Yeah, so I love the fact that this is this content is going to be accessible to all the people that don't necessarily have a Copilot license. So yeah, that's something I can do, is I can just create create this FAQ for all the training in our training site, and then be able to display that on pages in SharePoint, and then all of our students who are in there don't necessarily have to have a Copilot license, and they would be able to still read the FAQs. So here's where, so once it generates it, again, you can change the settings over here on the right. Once it's finished, I'll say draft answers. And I'm not sure, there's not really a way to tell exactly what it changes in the content based on me changing the audience like that. That'd be interesting to know. But it's just redoing, it's regenerating all the questions and all the answers. And so once it gets to that point and it finishes, it looks like it's going a little bit faster this time, maybe. Once it gets to this point and it finishes, then, and the web part's done and it's ready to hit publish, then you do have the ability to just go in there and rearrange things some more. You can drag the categories up and down, you can drag the questions up and down, and be able to just edit that. And when you add a new question, it's going to use AI to generate that answer. So here again, it's just going through that whole process. So yeah, it'd be really interesting. It's a really, really interesting exercise to go through the process of changing the purpose and then seeing what the way, a different way that it structures it, and then changing the kind of more information that you give it about the audience, and then seeing how it restructures it. You could also change the tone. So I could say, make it casual and conversational, or you can say, make it very formal. So I would say, I would think that company policies would need to be very formal, but again, that's up to you. And just think about concepts that you usually use when you're adding extra information to give when you're doing any AI prompting. So let's see. All right, and that just real quick, I wanted to show you where that information is. And as you're chatting with us here in Teams, hey everybody, then this is the notes tab that I created that has, every time we have a power hour, we put notes and like extra links and things like that about whatever we're talking about. So here is just Microsoft's support page, just general basic information about this web part. So this is the link that I was referring to. And go back to the chat. Go to posts. If you're just arriving here for the first time, when you go to today's tab here, then you can go to the little chat bubble here. And that's where, that's how you can watch the video and chat at the same time. All right, let's see if it's finished. Almost. Do y'all have any other questions? Let's see. Oh, yeah. No, it's still going. So I'm not sure. What we need to test next is to see if there's a limit in the number of source files that you can create. Let's see, is that in the, let me see if that's in that link. Go click on that link and see. Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, look at that. Viewers, no Copilot license required. And then when you, so it just says that you can select multiple files, and the file types are Word, PowerPoint, PDF, Loop, and Meeting. Oh, so Meeting, that's pretty cool. So you could point it to a meeting. If you have a big, long, complicated meeting with a lot going on, you could just have it create an FAQ based off of a meeting, and more file types will be supported in the future. So it doesn't say what the limit is as far as the number of files that you can point it to. Is it still going? No, yeah, it's finished. I'll go ahead and keep it. And let's see, Mark was asking a question. Oh, Skynet, yes. Okay, so this is what I was referring to when you have the ability to just add more questions anytime. So attendance, workplace conduct. Let's see, I'll add a question. Do we get, see, notice it's got the little AI. Okay, so when you want to add new questions, I do have the ability to completely just add my own question and my own answer and just write that from scratch, just my own words. I can put that in here if I want to, if I choose add manually. So then add with AI is where it's going to take my question and reason over it with AI and then generate the answer. So if I add another question like, do we get Thanksgiving off? And then it's just going to figure out what the answer needs to be. And go. And I do have the ability to add categories too. So look at that. Yes, Contoso observes Thanksgiving as a paid holiday. So maybe people ask that all the time. And then if I do add a question and then I choose manually, let's see, let me do it in a different spot. Let's see, go all the way down here. Let's see, I don't want, where's the dress code? Did it rearrange my categories? Oh, did it take, oh, it took dress code off completely. So I'll add dress code. So when I regenerated it for the different audience, it removed dress code. That's interesting. Okay, so now add a question, and then I'll change it to what kind of shoes can we wear? And then since I'm adding it manually, I'll just say flip-flops. Flip-flops only. So there's my answer. So now I can go ahead and republish this. And so it gives you the ability to manually, so I put that, when I added that category, it just put it at the very top. So this is my manually added question and answer here. And then of course, all the other ones are AI. So this would be a good thing to just put on a home page and have it, right there, front and center, so people know. And if they don't have the Copilot license, they'll be able to still use this, have this AI benefit. So here, and again, here's the other one that I created based on a PowerPoint presentation. So yeah, let me see, switch back over. Okay, that was really interesting. So I think that is my favorite part about the FAQ web part, is that it uses Copilot, it uses AI, but people viewing this web part on a page in SharePoint don't have to have a Copilot license. So the person creating the web part and adding it to the page does need to have a Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot license to be able to add this web part, configure it. But then once it's on the page and the page is published, everyone can read it. Keep in mind that the file or files that you're pointing this web part to don't even have to be on the same site. And the people viewing this web part don't even have to have access to whatever location that file lives in. So yeah, that's huge. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. That was a pretty quick one. It's a pretty simple web part. Not a lot of complexity to it. So keep in mind that we are IW Mentor. We're a training company, iwmentor.com. And you can find, when you go to IW Mentor, click schedule at the top. That's where you can find our list of when our power hours are happening at Wednesdays at 11 Central. Again, I'm Laura Rogers. This is Joelle Jobson in the window. And thanks everybody for coming. Over and out.